All right, where's Count Tastus? Let's bring him on. I can't see. I can't see him. Where is he?
Can't see me?
There he is. Holy shit! Jesus fucking Christ! So how are you? I guess let's start from the beginning. Let's tell everyone who you are, what you do.
I'm Count Tastus from Acquired Taste Industries. I make resin figures, sort of Star Wars focused.
And how long have you been doing that?
Since I started in late 2016, but I didn't release anything until 2017.
So to me, there's a lot of people. There's some artists out there who produce, a lot of work, and every month there's something new.
Yeah.
How there's filmmakers who make a film every year, and then there's like Stanley Kubrick. Stanley Kubrick makes like one film a decade, or two films a decade, and you are like the Stanley Kubrick of the resin art toy scene.
Well, that is a very nice way of putting it. That's very nice.
Your standards are extremely high. You do not suffer fools or low standards, or I don't know. And I feel like everything down from like the blister and the card and everything just has to be perfect. And it seems like you don't care how long that takes. And then when it's right, you just open it up to the world, and it's like it goes.
Yes. Yep. I'm hoping that the process will get shorter, because I have a lot of ideas that I'd like to get done before I'm dead, and I'm not looking so hot.
Janky just about fell off his chair. Wow.
But yeah, I don't know, the more complicated stuff that doesn't seem to have been done yet is what interests me. Like, I don't want to do something that's going to get knocked off, and I don't want to do something that's been done before. So that leaves stuff that's kind of more difficult and maybe a little further up the tree, and unfortunately probably a little harder to understand too, because while I'm working on it's the idea of it is becoming more involved and complex, like the background of it, and what sort of situations the character's in and who else he bumps into. And I imagine play sets and stuff, and then like put the thing online and sell it, and boop, time for the next thing, So, right. But there is a lot of thought behind it. That's probably partially because I spend so long doing it.
And how did you come about resin toys? Like, how did this become a thing for you?
I had seen, I don't know, I'm thinking probably my introduction to art toys was probably like Juxtapose magazine in high school and stuff. And I had a subscription to that for a long time. And then there was some reality show, and I don't know what this was, but it wasn't carded figures, but it was aliens and predators, like in a business environment with suits on and stuff. It was like diorama pictures. And I was like, oh, wow, that's a really great use of that stuff. And then I thought, well, somebody else is already doing it, having no idea how many people were doing it in so many different ways. Diorama stuff's just one tiny aspect of, this whole thing is so much bigger than just the resin art scene that we think of. Like, in it there's weird connections with just regular Star Wars customizers and dollhouse people, and
sure.
So it's one of the things that makes it interesting to me, is that there's so many like tendrils coming off of it.
Definitely. I mean, the Sucklord, while we think he was the first to kind of do a action figure as art, there were people customizing, stuff right out the gate. I mean, as soon as before Star Wars, and then once Star Wars started, There were people making figures that didn't exist, making Grand Moff Tarkins, and uh, there was, I remember the earliest ones that I saw were, I think the two favorites were Grand Moff Tarkin. That was kind of one of the most desired and easy to do because you could just take an Imperial commander's body and just change the head. And
Right.
then Luke in the ceremonial outfit.
Which
And
I don't understand that. Do you understand the fascination of him in the yellow jacket? I really
uh,
like the play value to have this go and Eva Venom. And like every
well,
customizer does it, they're like, finally, thank God I've got Luke in his yellow jacket to get his medal.
just for the record, I want you to know that it's very hard to take you seriously dressed up like the Wicked Witch of the West. So
Going for something between the Palpatine hologram from the
uh
original Fire and
yeah.
the that creature in the book from the Care Bears movie.
Well, good on you then. All right, so you kind of started out in the diorama world, and then you said you were kind of shocked when you found
Well,
that there was already a bunch of people doing
that was the
this.
first time I really saw it as art. I guess was like seeing like the diorama of the business office that had predators and aliens and stuff in it, and I was like, boy, that's interesting. And then I think once I kind of said, well, I can't do it because someone else is already doing it.
Mhm.
I think the next time I really saw much of it was in a group on Facebook that this guy Estria runs. He lives in Hawaii. He's a mural painter and a
Sure.
customizer. And I had just joined a bunch of Star Wars groups on Facebook because I was giving up on regular life. I decided I was just going to become absorbed in Star Wars, and that was that. And it was easily the best one of all the pages. Like, so much beautiful stuff, and like when you've never seen it before, everything is great too. It's very seductive. As somebody that I had a pretty good collection of the figures as a kid, and they were very important to me, and I was always careful with them. So just like most people, the other thing that I never mentioned is that I wasn't allowed to play with GI Joe, and I think I might be the only person. My parents were very anti-war, and
Mhm.
they thought that GI Joe was part of this conspiracy between toy makers and the military to recruit kids and to tell kids that they could be individuals, like have their own wacky outfit and specialties and shit in the army, when in fact they're just trying to beat you all into the same piece of equipment, sort of.
Right.
But
I
then
mean,
watch the toys that made us, and they're just trying to find a way to sell another soldier to a kid, that
sure.
that is going to be exciting to them. But
W-
so it was like
Well,
Star Wars. So
yeah, yeah. I mean, the '80s, the GI Joe of the '80s was sort of, them trying to capitalize on what they had done in the '60s. But was it a vast conspiracy? No, but
yeah, the only connection I can see is that story from when I can't remember what his rank was, but some guy from a barracks just let them borrow a bunch of shit at Hasbro to copy it.
mhm.
He was like, sure, take all the guns you need,
I mean,
but that was just, I think, the whim of this guy. It's not like coming down, we need to recruit kids for the army for our,
it's it's not a grand conspiracy, but culturally, there is an acceptance. I mean, let's say when it comes to movies, right? If you are making a movie about the army, the armed forces, and it's a very pro armed forces, uh, script, and they approve of it, they will either provide for free or rent you very cheap or provide assistance, and you can have tanks and
yeah.
helicopters and boats and all the shit you need for your movies. And if you are making an anti-war movie and they read the script, they're like, nah, we're not going to help you with that.
Good luck at the surplus store.
Yeah, right. So it's not a conspiracy, but
It
there
exists, but
it
just funny to me that, and I love my folks and they're smart people, but it's funny because when I tell people this, it's foreign to them. Like I wasn't allowed to play Dungeons and Dragons either, which is more common. But the GI Joe thing,
Right.
I don't hear many people. Star Wars was okay because it was in outer space and it was unrealistic, but like GI Joe
Sure.
with like vehicles modeled after real shit and stuff was too much for them.
Right.
They were very Vietnam sensitive. My dad against it and all that kind of stuff. So
I mean, I get that. Like we were not allowed to have like guns in the house. Some crept in eventually. GI Joe wasn't specific. I mean, what year did GI Joe come out?
like
80,
the like
82, 81, 82. Yeah, I think it's funny like how there were like it was really like the no guns thing when I was from my mom when I was a kid. And then now that I have a kid, Samuel's like, I want a big Nerf gun, this big, fires darts, semi-automatic, and then like boom, like Nana's just bought him a big gun. It's like, what happened?
Well, it's not something that you have to worry about them finding or whatever.
Right.
I mean, I grew up. I don't know. Here's where I get canceled, but I grew up with guns. I've been shooting since I was 5 years old, so that wasn't the case in my house. But
So at what age had you always been doing something creative? Were you doing art
Oh
at
yeah,
an early age?
like my first memory is drawing a picture of my parents in orange crayon, and my mom going like, "This is very nice, but your dad has a mustache. You might want to add that." I'm like, "Oh yeah, all right," And so that's like one of my earliest memories was probably being like, probably 3 or something, probably like 3.
Mm-hmm. And how were you, expressing yourself like throughout the years before you found, resin figures, or are you still doing other types of art?
Oh no, I had done like comic art as a kid, and then like I took a lot of art classes through high school, and I had a really great art teacher in high school. The program was really good. We were allowed to kind of explore what we wanted to do, and we had like independent studies in arts that you could take as an elective. And I took woodworking too, which was a different teacher that really pissed him off because I won an award with something that I carved in that class, and it took focus away from the real art department as far as he was concerned. But so yeah, I went to high school and did a bunch of art projects that had personal meaning to me, and then I went off to the Art Institute of Pittsburgh to learn to do special effects and props and masks and things. And I don't know what I was expecting. It's sort of like it's out of business now. The school no longer exists, and I think Jane might be under too. There was a lot of great stuff to learn if you applied yourself and made good decisions, but that wasn't always the case with me. So, but
I mean, I wanted to be a special effects artist when I was a kid, and then I realized that like someone explained to me that like most special effects, practical effects art was like digging ditches. And I was like, oh, I'm not doing that. Like the chances that I was going to be like John Dykstra and like be creating everything was very slim to none. And
yeah,
I got over that pretty quick.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't tell this story, but I had a friend that I went to art school with that when he started, like one of the teachers laughed at his drawings, and the kid, he was a tough son of a bitch too, and he almost cried in front of everybody in class. And like, he ended up really doubling down, and he quit drinking and smoking cigarettes. And he became like, by the time he graduated, he was like top 3 most talented people in the class easily. He went out to California to pursue his dream. And one of his gigs was working on a Mary Kate and Ashley movie, like there was some sort of a cocoon or something in one of them. So he helped make that.
Yeah.
And, like he was living in an apartment with like 12 other dudes that were all trying to make it and stuff. And like, he was a vegetarian, and he ate something with a bay leaf in it that sliced his intestine, and he had no insurance or whatever, but he went to the hospital, they operated, and then he got an infection from the operation and died.
Oh,
and so that happened shortly after I graduated school, and I was like, I don't think this is what I thought it was.
Oh man. He ate a bay leaf because he was a vegetarian and it sliced his intestine, and then he went to have it.
I've had friends that
Okay.
were killed by drugs too, but this one hard work killed by.
Most talented artist in his class, killed by bay leaf.
Hey, top 3. Let's not get crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, but yeah. So after that, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, and then I don't know. I had this. I had developed a romantic idea about making an honest living, and not doing art anymore. There's nothing. There's nothing to turn you off to art like going to art school. Like, like I'm so tired of these people. Like, I don't know. I ended up a lot grouchier after art. So I had a great time. Don't get me wrong, but afterwards,
You mean there was a time in your life where you weren't grouchy?
I was considerably less grouchy. Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Before art school.
I mean, I've always known you as grouchy, so it's hard to imagine that not grouchy.
True.
Wow, there was something you said earlier.
In art school, there's a lot of deadbeats and drug activity and shit. Like, and
but that's all school.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. I think I don't know. I know it exists at all colleges and stuff, but I think that like I'm sure at music schools it's the same. I think that like kind of artsy.
You're saying that you think that there's more when it comes to the arts, where like the history majors are not doing blows, LSD or something.
Right. Yeah.
They're just drinking beer.
Right.
Got it. Okay. So what after college? What happens? So you don't want to die from a bay leaf infection,
right?
And then where do you go from there?
I worked at a warehouse for a while, and like I did artwork for a band here and there, or I would start projects. Like I started doing a shrunken head of my wife's uncle as a Christmas ornament. Like a pretty authentic looking one. Like his wrinkles looked like his wrinkles and stuff. And then like at some point I just stopped, and now it's like 10 or 15 years later, and it's almost a flattering depiction. It's no longer. It's no longer valid. It's not as funny as it was now.
Right. Wow. All right. So keep going. So.
Oh yeah. So I had a lot of half-finished projects, and I had like, the city that my wife and I live in, it's hard to find a good apartment. So like we went from place to place, like probably averaging every 3 years, and like there were more and more boxes of unfinished projects as I moved from place to place. It would be like Laura would write on it like Chad's ridiculous unfinished projects.
Oh, you got mocked for it at the same time.
Right, but it would still move to 2 more places.
Right. And so did any get finished, or did they all abandoned?
They're still abandoned at this point. And it's when I got interested in these figures, like my wife, like I was excited about it, telling my wife, like, oh, it's great. You just swap parts, and it doesn't really have to mean anything. It just look cool, and it looks like so much fun. And I love her so much. She was like, that is not you. There's no way you're just going to be able to like just swap parts and have fun. Like you overthink everything and overcomplicate everything, and that's what you're going to end up with. And I was like, all right, we'll see. And then sure enough, Kubrick, like.
Right. So what kind of other jobs are you having during this time?
I did I got into sprinkler fitting. Like I was a fire protection sprinkler fitter, pipe fitter in the field for a while, and then they made me a designer, and that was my career goal. And like as I sat there at my computer, I was pretty, I was like, man, that's it. All there is to do is get better at this, and this is it for the rest of my life. Because the next logical step is to be an estimator, but I'm not a gambler by nature, and you have to be. You have to be pretty cavalier to be an estimator in construction, because you got to have. Anyway, so I figured I'd be a designer for the rest of my life. And the longer I did it, the more miserable I was. And so I knew I needed some sort of creative outlet. And I brought things into work like artwork that my grandmother that had passed before I was born. I put that like on the side of my computer tower and like some Jim Henson stuff. And I thought it would cheer me up and make the space feel more my own. And all it did was like depress me further and give me like a bigger sense of urgency that I needed to do something creative. Like, and it actually, I told Killer this years ago, like I actually got like such anxiety that like I would have stomach pain that doubled me over at my desk while I was trying to design sprinkler systems and shit. So eventually I just quit. Like after I started doing the toys, it's with the sprinkler thing, like I don't know, you're all in construction is very competitive. You're always getting pushed. And I never felt like I was fast. I wasn't fast enough, but they kept me around, you know? And at one point though, I had a talk with my boss and he was saying that like, he hoped to pass on the company to me when he retired. And I was like, motherfucker, we're the same age. I don't want what's left of this company when you're sick of it. Come on. Now, I love it. But so it had been a long time since I felt like I was good at anything. Mm-hmm. And so when I started doing the figures, it came along at the right time. Mm-hmm. And it felt so good. It was like you know, in Pulp Fiction or Train Spotting, when they revive the OD person, like
right.
That's what it felt like when I started actually doing art and completing shit and getting it out there again, and having people see it. And I didn't realize how much I'd missed it. And like, it was really something I hadn't had since high school, because like in art school, you do, a model of some creature or a mask, and your classmates are like, and then nobody else really ever fucking sees it,
Right.
I don't know why that's important, but it is, it's nice to get some positive feedback and stuff.
Sure. I mean, there is some satisfaction that comes from within, but ultimately most artists want their work to be seen.
Right.
I mean, unless you're like Henry Darger and you're just going to paint little girls in your apartment like your whole life and die with, so then what year is your first figure?
It was the Ugnalumpa in 2017. And then a few, months later, we did Emperor Cryogenia in New York.
Mm-hmm. But let's stick with the Oompa Loompa. So what was the reaction to that? You put that out, and then what happened?
I put it out, and I posted it first in Estria's group on Facebook, mm-hmm. And Dead Greedy was one of the first people to like it and share it. Mm-hmm. Been very friendly and supportive this whole time. He's a hell of a guy, and I was just like, holy shit, these guys like it, Mm-hmm. And then friend requests started rolling in from people on Facebook, and I'm like, I don't want this. What is this? Like, I wasn't doing it for friend requests. I was just kind of doing it to do the work and show it.
Sure.
I don't know. That's the crabby side of me that you were talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but the figure sold out, right? And
yeah, eventually. Yeah, I mean, that was, I think a lot of people starting out make the mistake that they're just going to run the mold until it dies. Mm-hmm. And when you're starting out, there's not enough people to want all the figures that mold is going to make until it dies. When you have like 0 Instagram followers and
sure.
Just a Facebook group and shit, you can't sell 36 figures. I didn't realize this. I was like, as long as I make something cool, people will like it. And eventually enough people liked it and bought it. Yeah, I sold them all, but like it took a long time. And
yeah, but there's people who don't have it who wish they had it now.
Yeah, good.
Oh man. Right. So, okay. So then you made
the foolish like hung them all on the wall, like as they mm-hmm. were completed. And then as they were ordered, I would like pull them off one at a time, and I just sit there working on my next thing, like staring at the unsold ones, like son of a.
But
These are tips for the kids at home. Don't do this to yourself. Don't go put them in a nice cardboard box where they won't get dusty.
Okay, but overall, I mean,
Once I knew better than to make 36 figures at a time, everything's gone. Yep.
everything's gone. But so have you finally found your medium of choice? I mean, is this it?
I love it. I'd love to do other things in the future too, but like I'm not sick of it yet, and I have a lot of ideas that aren't Star Wars related for the future. I'm still excited to do it. You know, I've kind of between quitting fire protection and my current Joe job that I absolutely don't want to talk about. I kind of wanted to. It's fine though, because the thing is, I think I need to do art alongside a job that I hate. So the art is better than the job. Because if the art is your job, then that's all you have to hate. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I think for your disposition, that's probably true.
Even if I was fast enough to make a living at this and shit, I think I would still need a miserable job to be like, I don't know. To be
at least at least a day a week, just so you could have something to hate.
Yeah, it would be nice to. Oh yeah, it would be really nice to reduce the amount of job that I hate. I would love that. Sure.
Yeah, but still, like once it goes away, then yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, because I don't know. I kind of took a crack at it, and then every little delay that you hit is a problem. Like, here's another tip for the kids at home: don't try that, especially like right off the bat. Like, don't. I don't know. Like, and everybody advises that, and it's good advice.
Advises what?
To wait a while before you try to make a living with this kind of shit, especially resin, because there's so many people doing it.
I don't think it's an issue of waiting. I think that, I mean,
well,
my
certain size following before you'd attempt such a thing, you know?
I agree. I mean, I think my advice to people is generally just to let the market push you in the right direction.
Right.
And, Sarah and I ran the distribution company out of the house when we clearly needed a warehouse until we couldn't stand it anymore.
Right.
And I have this conversation with many artists that and respect, and it's who are trying to figure out, like, can I quit my day job? And my advice to them is no. Don't quit your day job until you can't stand it anymore. Until there's, because you're not going to just have this extra time and then make more and then
inspirational too.
I'm sorry.
I said the shittiness of certain jobs is inspirational. You find a lot of beautiful material at a shitty job.
Wow.
You feel it so deeply. You feel it so fucking deeply,
I can see that you do, yes.
Fair enough.
But it's like, so we're in the house and we're just pushing it and just keeping it. I would say that it's okay to have it be painful for a little while, right? Because
sure,
if I jumped to a warehouse and had to take on 10 grand a month, let's say, in expenses before I was ready, it could have tanked the business.
Yeah.
Shipping the boxes out of our kitchen, saving that money, and then jumping to a warehouse and having that expense, I didn't notice the change in the bank. Do you know what I mean? There was a little buffer because we saved, and then it wasn't as scary. And then now we had more space, and we had more time to more space with which to make more money, and it was a smooth transition. And so it's like, people say, like, how much do I charge for my stuff? And I just tell people, sell it as cheap as you can. Right. And once it's selling, once you can't produce enough to maintain demand, then the market's saying, like, hey, you don't have time, you raise your price.
Right.
right? Market says they want 100 pieces. I can't make 100 pieces. I can only make 50. Well, they're selling out too quickly. Okay, well, raise your price a little bit,
Yeah.
create a little more resistance. And that's the market telling you, you know, hey, if you can only make this many, charge this much more. Instead of, I get a lot of people who are just sitting thinking like, how much should I charge for my stuff? Like, should I charge 50 or should I charge 100? And it's like, well, it's always better to charge less,
Sure.
sell
Yeah. You
out
want
and look like,
to,
and look, you want to look like a superstar. And it's like, that was, Tom Hazelmeyer from
yeah,
Oxup,
like
from,
when you underprice it and it still doesn't sell. Then the few that you sell, I don't know.
it happened.
No, I don't know what's worse, right?
Um, Look, well, it wasn't going to sell at the high price anyway, so
Well, this is true. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that doesn't matter. But it was Tom Hazelmeyer from Oxup Gallery. He was describing, Shag, who's a very successful artist, and he kind of told me like he'd look at a painting and say like this is worth $10,000. He priced it at 8,500,
Yeah.
and then the show sells out completely, and he looks like a superstar. Everyone wants to show him, and the next show, maybe rise, just a small bump. That's
Yeah.
it. Even if the work is selling for double in the secondary market, small bump. And then he pointed out the names of a couple other artists that I won't name, who had a little more of an ego, were really more about like, I think I'm worth this much, and top of the market.
There's
And
something
instead,
to take it till you make it shit too, though. I don't know. Like I don't engage in it, but it does
yeah,
seem.
but if you have a body of work to sell in a gallery, you have 30 paintings to sell, and then you only sell half of them,
Yeah.
you don't, it doesn't look successful, as
True.
successful. I mean, it's still great that you sold 15 paintings at a high price, but then you have another 15 paintings that didn't sell. So I like the other formula. Personally, that's my advice to most. It works for most people, not everybody.
Yeah.
But underprice, sell
I think-
out, creep up, continue to keep that trend. Plus, the more you sell, the more demand you create. Like if you sell out of your first run of pieces, now you have, if you made 50 pieces, you have 50 collectors now
Right.
that are more open to your second piece, where it's harder to get people to jump in the second time. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
People
not,
go, well, 50 people gave a shit about the guy's last thing, right? So,
yeah. I mean,
like you have that going for you. Like,
sure. I mean, if this was just a perfect world where everyone just was completely rational being and capable of judging everything on its own merits and deciding like what they like and what they don't, but what I like sometimes just makes no sense. I could go to anyone's art collection or anyone's collection and say, oh, well, you like this and this, how come you don't like this?
right.
And then they can't explain it. It's just they had a feeling. Sometimes it's the price, sometimes they just got in at the right time. it there's generally just too much product and too many options, and most people can't afford everything, so you just kind of get into it when you get into it, I guess.
Yeah.
Dustin Benzing says, thanks for not using my name, Dove. I was not referring to you. The guy who makes original wood sculptures for $65. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
All right. So then you made that exclusive for us, that crazy clear R2D2 with the Disney head and the Epcot dome. That, I feel like everyone in here is clapping for you. I feel like, I mean,
where's my Point Break 2 figure, motherfucker? Where's my Point Break 2 figure, motherfucker?
It's coming. It's only 2 years late.
Yeah. Tell you, my friend, man.
You're gonna get it. You're gonna get it way before these videos get up on YouTube. So
wow, amazing.
But yeah, like when I did that, I was like, let's see if we can really get away with anything. Let's see, can we slap long deceased Walt Disney in the face and not have them do anything? And I was lucky enough to have you go along on that experiment with me, and we're still alive.
I mean, that didn't feel particularly egregious, like,
yeah,
making some sort of political
All right.
commentary about Walt Disney is not Yeah, I mean, you're not the first to do that, and
No, of course. No, that's been an urban legend forever.
sure, but it was conceptually like a next level figure. I mean, in its concept and execution. And I feel like the Oompa Loompa was here, and then that piece came out, and it was like everyone all of a sudden was like, "Holy shit, who's that acquired taste dude?" Like that was like that was kind of like mind expanding, I think, for a lot of people in a way.
Wow, thank you.
You didn't find that a very different
Uh,
reaction?
uh you know, it's odd because people really love that first one.
The first one's great. The
Yeah,
first
no,
one,
I'm not. I agree that the second one's way better, but like some
I,
people like
I'm not saying it's
more
better.
of a
It just,
matchup, I guess. Like,
I mean,
and then
the first one was just a mashup.
right.
It's nostalgic and people get it and they love it and they buy it. I bought one immediately when
Yep.
I saw it. Um, but the second one, I think you took it to another level. You don't
It
see
was,
that?
yeah, I think like I had the ideas like virtually at the same time. Like when I had like a list of ideas when I started doing this, and some of them are real, like most of them are shit, but like there's
Mhm.
still a few good ones that I'm picking off of there. And it was sort of all in, a lot of this stuff was all, I thought of it all in the same day almost. And in fact, like when I was thinking about doing figures, I was like, it was sort of like a stream of consciousness thing. I was like, if I'm going to start doing this, like Scott Cherry already did a really cool R2, and I'd seen some other ones like Falcon Toys, Gumball Machine. I love. I wish I had one. So I was like, if I'm going to do something, I better be able to come up with something cooler than Walt Disney's Frozen Head and an R2 with with an Epcot dome and some cartoon hands. And then I was like, actually, that's pretty good. Where did that, and so then I started checking to see if anybody had done anything like that, and they had, but it was sort of in the middle of a challenge to myself that I came up with it, and it was weird. Nice first impression. I meet you in a parking garage and hand you a box of shit, but
But see, that was not the first impression,
okay. All right. That's good.
right? You think that's what you think about. Like, I give a shit how you delivered it to me. Like, I got to see you and shake your hand, and everyone else sends it a box in the mail. Like, you know, yeah, that's not. I think the impression that you made, that first step forward, is the work that you produce. Um, I mean, yeah, it's hard to deal with an artist if they're like a complete dick, like
Right.
that. It,
I'm not quite there yet.
that's that equation that Neil Gaiman had. It was like, because in like production work, it's like good, quick, and cheap. You choose two,
Yeah.
right? If you're making something for somebody. But he said for artists getting work, it was you do good work, you turn it in on time, and people like you. So it's like you can only get away with being a dick and people not liking you if you're like exceptionally good and you turn your work in on time.
Yeah.
And so you all have to see like, if your work's not good, but you turn your work in on time and people like you, like you still have a job. Like
Yeah.
that was his whole point of the
Yeah.
speech is like you only need 2 out of the 3. So it's like if you're self-aware enough to see like where your faults are and can, focus on the other 2, like when you get all 3, that's great. But that's funny because when my kid was making these figures for us here at the show, this little underpants man, it was difficult at times to motivate him to follow through and finish them. And Sarah finally told him that if he was one of the artists that we worked with, that we would have kicked him to the curb already.
Rude.
That he was being too high maintenance, which was hilarious. He's probably watching this right now, thinking that's not funny. All right, so it sounds good. It sounds like, I mean, what it sounds like is a lifetime of struggle, and that you found resin toys, and now you've found your muse in a way.
Yeah. I know it sounds corny, but I am happy doing it. I'm still enjoying it very much, and still thinking of I'm still excited about my next ideas, and well, we can't say anything about it, but the one you and I are talking about for next year that we've been talking about for a long time. I finally feel ready to do that one. So
Nice. Maybe some of the grouchiness will subside.
we'll see. It's getting worse with age no matter what. So
Yeah. Wow. It'll be fun at, like when we're all 80 and have like the get together convention, like all the veterans from the scene, and they're just sitting around like just all grouchy.
oh yeah, you
Like,
know what I was asking you, that what occurred to me earlier, like some people argue that the Star Wars shit, nobody's going to care about it in 30 years, just like nobody gives a shit about Hummels or Lionel trains, or like there's a lot of stuff that is no longer fashionable. Do you think there was ever subversive Lionel train art, like fuck you, Dad, like anti-war, like hippie Lionel train art?
not that I know of. But Jenky is saying yes.
There are whole lines of figures you can buy for your train sets of people having sex and murdering each other and all sorts of stuff. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy model makers. Yeah, are people going to care about Star Wars? I think so, the way they care about, like, Mickey Mouse. Like, Disney's not going to let it die. They have too much invested. And I hate to say this, and and most people probably want to think that this is not true, but it will get to the point where I feel like they'll reboot the original trilogy, because it's how many years old right now? It's 2021. It's like,
I understand, but like what for? Like, because like all the tech and all the other movies has been made to imitate the kitschy, like like the stuff, like cell phones are ahead of what they use in the original trilogy.
sure. And so that's getting kind of corny. Like when you watch Rogue One, like they don't have any Wi-Fi. Like they have to run up to a tower and put a thing in. It makes no sense. Like,
right. Well, the other yeah, the technology doesn't change over thousands of years in the Star Wars universe either.
Yeah. But I guess what I'm saying is, once they feel that it doesn't appeal to the same audience and they need to recapture a new generation because they haven't seen the original trilogy, because those movies are 50 or 60 years old, they'll figure out a way to redo it.
Do you think it looks like Maltese Falcon looks to us? Like, it's cool, but it's definitely old. Is that what kids think when they see it?
I don't know. I still think the practical effects look better than most CG.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
mean, it's not flawless, but when they went back and made the special editions, they didn't fix all the things that I was pissed about.
Right.
They didn't fix like the jump cut when R2D2's leg pops out. Like, that'd have been so easy to fix. They fixed all these things that didn't need fixing.
Yeah.
And
it's so sad. Have you seen fan efforts to like recompile like an acceptable version of the original movie from all these different sources, and they're color correcting, and
I do have a DVD of the original cut, with audio, with the 35 stereo soundtrack and the 6-channel surrounds, on different audio channels.
Is that the bonus of the DVD?
No, because they don't have. That's like a low res version.
Yeah, right. Shit.
Yeah. The last time they made that was like on Laserdisc. So someone had a copy and did. I don't know how they did it. What they really,
like,
I mean,
like people are almost entirely concerned with reconstructing the first one too. Like Empire and Jedi don't rate, I guess, which is weird. But
I mean, Empire is so close to a perfect movie. Like, I mean, there's some like bad like matte paintings in there, and some special edition stuff that they made kind of worse. But I mean, all the practical effects and those sets and stuff, those were insane.
Yeah.
Like that, I don't know. I think what could be like legitimately rebooted is episode 1, 2, and 3. Like they should just do that right now. Like it's been 20 years. Those movies suck.
But like,
Just do
like
do
the
them
stuff
again.
that the worst stuff about them to me is like Anakin building C-3PO as a kid. You can't fix that. It's canon, right? I don't know. Like, how do you, like, the dumbest shit?
I mean,
You know,
just take
getting kids together, like all this stupid, unnecessary coincidence shit. That's like this, you know,
that should all be removed. Like, just you don't need any of that. You don't need any Jar Jar. There's a political intrigue, and you can make that movie badass.
Agreed. You know, like when I watched the original trilogy as a kid, and you know, saw the Emperor, I wasn't wondering like, gee, how'd he get that job? He's the bad, you know. Right. He's a guy trying to like pit a father and son against each other, you know, like,
sure.
Which as a kid I thought was the most evil thing ever, you know, like I hated
sure.
him sticking me. Now now he's like my second favorite character, you know. But.
And you definitely don't need an entire generation of clones and stormtroopers based on Boba Fett.
Yep, they ruined. I really like this kind of like Clint Eastwood voice that he had in the first version of Empire, you know.
Jason Wingreen, yeah.
Imagine that was Clint Eastwood in there, you know.
Yeah, he's no good to me dead. Yeah, and they replaced that.
Right.
They replaced his voice with Tamara Morrison. It's terrible.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, well,
like,
we can talk about this shit forever.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. You want?
It's okay. Talking. No, it's time to go. But I'm just happy to hear that you found something.
Yeah, it was the stars kind of lined up, and here it is. Yeah. So
you know, you could have been a very different human being right now.
Yeah.
Like with no creative outlet, still working at like a fire sprinkler company.
Right. And like
that's how people take assault rifles and go in and shoot people.
Well, that wouldn't be me. Come on now. don't twist what I say about my so, like, I will say this though, like every Friday, you know, like they typically fire people on Friday, and every Friday, like, you know, like the end of Donnie Brasco when Al Pacino is taking his watch off and in his cufflinks and putting him in a drawer for his wife to find after he disappears.
Yeah.
I felt like I was getting fired every fucking Friday. Like it was like that for years.
Wow. So, all right, dude. I really appreciate the time. It's been a pleasure. We're all proud of you.
I still love you, Janky. Start making toys again. That's the worst part. You start making toys again. You're one of my favorite guys.
Only for you, my friend. Only for you, I will do that.
I mean, in general, he's one of my.
No, I mean, just for you. I will leave stuff for the world just for you.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, a love song for me. I'll know what it is.
Yes, they will.
Oh man, thank you again.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure as usual.
Take care. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.
That was amazing.